My spirit is infinite. I don't waste moments on what's insignificant. Moments move different when you discipline. Silence teach lessons they never mention it. My bloodline needs healing. I'm reaching for magic beyond what's indigenous. Not just the drums or the rituals, but the knowing that live in the sinew and ligaments. I walk slow, but I ride.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back to another round of My Patriot Report. I'm the bridge connecting the next generation to federal contracting. I am Ratwan Hill. With me, I have the man, the myth, the legend. And if you don't know who he is by now, you might want to ask Anthropic, Mr. Walter Cotton III. Mr. Cotton, man, how you doing this great Friday?
You know, the temperature looks nice for the weekend. The wife has invited me to go on a picnic with her, so I'm expectant.
Yes, sir. Nothing like a little bit of fun in the sun. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now let's dive in. Now, I wanted to talk about something that I see is materializing or concerns that are going through the federal contracting landscape. Now, we've been already talking about, and it's already been implemented, the attack on DEI, the dismantling of DEI, the NDAA being dismantled. Now it looks like they have their sights set on the Women-Owned Small Business program. Now, before I get into it, you said this might have been last year. It might have been even the year before that. I remember you saying, and I believe we did a recording of live talking about it, where you said that they were going to target women, that women on small business could potentially be in the crosshairs.
Yes, that was one of the predictions that I made during my Told You So tour. But it appears that there's some conversation in the popular media about that action actually getting some traction right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I want to talk about that a little bit more, because we've been we've been asking or educating the audience of the fact that we have the power, and the fact that if they reach out to their Congress, reach out to their representative and their congressman, that they have the power to influence getting bills passed or getting things that best suit the citizens of the United States. Now, this particular bill ending discrimination in government contracting, which is a strong language to me, but I wanted to talk about the fact that Steve Koprince, who is very well known in the federal contracting space of being an advocate for legal matters in regards to government contracting, he pointed out a fact that there weren't any co-sponsors on this bill. From your experience, what does that signal? Does that signal that it's not getting support and that is least likely to get passed, or is this something that still can be passed without any co-sponsors? How significant is that matter he's pointing out?
Well, Steve is one of the old soldiers in the small business contracting and advocacy game. So shout out to my friend and advocate Steve Koprince. But what Steve is pointing out here is something very, very sophisticated, and that is that this particular issue is getting a lot of traction in the popular media, because it's sensational, right? The suggestion is that they're going to get rid of the women-owned small business contracting program, and another underlying theme of the bill is to curtail or maybe eliminate the 8A program. And what Steve is pointing out is the fact that these are bills that have been introduced that have no co-sponsorship, and he's pointing the reader's attention to a subtlety that's often missed in our lawmaking process, and that is the fact that congressmen, especially freshman congressmen and freshman senators, they sponsor bills every congressional session that go nowhere. And unless the bill gets the critical mass of co-sponsorship or support in the committee or on the floor, it's not going to pass. And so what Steve is pointing out about this S35, I think, oh no, it was S4390, is the fact that it, as well as HR 8511, are bills that have been introduced that have zero co-sponsorship. And until that co-sponsorship gets to a critical measure, this is a bill that's not worth paying attention to, which is why we are motivating and compelling our constituents to go out and ask their congressman or senator to co-sponsor the legislation that we have underway, right? And the reason that we're doing that is because we've had a material change in our electoral process. We have some material changes underway with this voters' rights effort that we're seeing in Alabama and Tennessee and the like. And when you have that significant of a change in the game, right? I'm sorry, a change in the theater, it empowers you with a need to change the game. And so what we're encouraging our true patriot voters to do is to help us get a signal from our representatives that they are still with us, right? They're still with the constitutional way. They're still with the rule of law and the color of law. And utilizing the example that Steve is indicating, the bills that we are currently promoting right now have co-sponsors. What I learned in my conversation with Claude is that once we get to that critical number, the bills are guaranteed to pass. And the critical number that we're looking to get to is 213 on the House side of the equation and 60 on the Senate side of the equation. And we need your help to get there.
Okay. Now, why are those exact numbers?
Well, actually, that's because what you have a certain makeup in the House and Senate. And what we're looking at are numbers that represent the majority. And if you have a majority of the members in the House and Senate signing on as co-sponsors, that curtails what you're going to experience in a floor vote. And so if you've got the majority of the House and the majority of the Senate co-sponsoring, your bill is guaranteed or almost guaranteed to pass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And okay, so it doesn't necessarily, the bills don't necessarily have to get those certain amount of co-sponsors, but them getting those numbers of co-sponsors is the guarantee that the bill would get passed.
Yes, it's a greater guarantee. And the reason that we're going through this exercise, as your or our listeners may or may not know, myself and a good friend of mine, Bill Elmore, have for the past 2 years been working with Congress to get them to pass this right-minded legislation. And Bill fully retired last year, and he put the advocacy baton in my hand. And I'm a different kind of advocate, right? I was never a government employee. And so I don't have I'm not a respecter of offices and titles. And so we're going about getting this done a different way. The Congress has promised us that they would pass this legislation 2 years in a row, which is right-minded legislation to empower him and her who bore the battle. And what I'm doing is I'm putting a litmus test in place, right? I'm putting a patriotic test in place for all of our members of Congress, right? You can't get away from this one, right? You're either going to be a demonstrated co-sponsor on this bill before it gets passed, and it will get passed, and you're going to experience the benefit of our favor during the midterm or your next election, or you're not going to show up as a co-sponsor of this bill and you're going to experience the counter, right, of our favor during your midterm election or during the general election.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, I want to just pivot a little bit in regards to the reward that you so selfishly offered, as you always do, being an advocate. The fact that veterans or any patriot that proves that they reached out to their representative or congressman or congresswoman to co-sponsor these Contract Our Veterans Act and Veteran Member Business Loan that you're offering them what was a $10,000 cost to get into your method at no cost, as long as they show proof that they reached out to their congressman and got them to engage. Now, I want to go into deeper about the actual curriculum, because I think that's important for the audience to really understand, like, the significance of that. And you might see me animated because that's really a significant reason why you should be taking part in this. Mr. Kai, could you give us a little bit of overview of what the course offers and the significance of the course to patriots, veterans?
Yeah, but before I talk about the significance of the course, and it is a real value, responsible for, depending on what camp you listen to, 150, $300 billion worth of awards to veterans. So it's the real deal. Before I start talking about the attributes of the course and what you will get, I really want to point the listeners' attention to the attributes of the example that I'm demonstrating, because we're talking about needing to make America safe again, right, by ensuring that our economic foundation is sound. And we're suggesting that we all need to employ a little radical economic patriotism in order to get there. And under the radical economic patriotism model, my fellow American, right, the needs of my brother becomes important to me. And so we're going back to a season where, we helped our neighbors out, right? When a barn needed a raisin, right? People were out there helping out. And so in this example, I've been blessed with a few resources. And so I am able to take some of those resources and fashion them in the form of this bonus, this gift that we're going to give to the patriot who motivates his congressman or woman to co-sponsor that bill. And what that gift portails is the entry point. It's the ticket for you to get into a government contracting feeding frenzy that's projected to be more than $1.3 trillion in size. And so before I talk about what the class is, I want to talk about the radical economic patriot example, because we need you all to take on that mindset. We need you all to take on that cultural interest of reaching back and helping your fellow American out. You were asking a question about the curriculum itself. Please restate the question so that I can answer it from the floor up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, well, before I ask you the question again, as you were saying that, what popped in my mind was that, man, our last conversation, you talked about Mrs. Sophia Nelson and her book, and she was saying that it was up to my generation to make changes, right? And then I thought about the video you said that you saw, and I know that's really what they are going through, that, they're working 3 jobs, and, they may even been in college, got a nice, a great degree that they thought that would lead them to, the great American dream, but that's not the actual case. But we're pointing their attention to the fact that they can participate in this federal contract, and whether you're a veteran or you're not a veteran, you still have the ability to participate. And if you're not a veteran, the fact that you can partner with a veteran via joint venture. You could joint venture with a veteran, and then you could be viable in this federal contracting landscape. It's something, I just want to speak on a little bit more, because when people hear 1.3 trillion, they probably like, man, yeah, but that's probably going to all the big businesses. And the fact of the matter is, your curriculum teaches the solution to that problem. We understand having access to capital is one of the biggest problems for small businesses. We understand that, the current paradigm is that you got to go through maybe a micro purchase or subcontracting and work your way up to maybe eventually get to 10, 15 million. And then now you got another obstacle to overcome when it comes to actually being able to scale. But what you've impressed upon me, and what I could unequivocally tell you guys, is that the fact that you can go from not just a small business to subcontract and work your ways up. You could go directly to the money. You could directly get to the money. And I could tell you, I've been in multiple meetings and relationships with billion-dollar companies, household names, and we're currently we have a relationship with a $1 billion organization. We have relationships with $100 million, with multi-$100 million organizations, and this is not even an exaggeration. I'll be real. I didn't grow up in an environment with a 2-parent household. I didn't grow up with money.
Mr. Hill, you're driving around Murphy's Barn.
Yeah.
And but there's a question in there somewhere, and so I'd love for you to distill one of them out.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't the question. I was just trying to point out the fact that if I could do it, that they could do it. I was just giving the background. But yeah, the ultimate question was, in terms of the GovCon curriculum, what would the audience exactly be getting from a high level?
Well, I want to simply say that what they would be getting is keys to a vehicle that will allow them to capture their desired share of that $1.3 trillion wealth transfer without having to ask anyone permission for it, to say it very, very succinctly. And so it's a solution that empowers you with the ability to do what many before you have done, whether they be Michelle Anthony, I don't want to drop names, but that's what you get. But what you said during your statement build up there was something that caught my attention about your generation, and how it's your generation's responsibility to kind of reimagine the political system, as my friend Sophia Nelson suggests in her book, as well as the economic landscape that you guys are going to encounter. And I wanted to double down on that, because you asked me a question during our last podcast that I wasn't prepared for. It was at the end of the podcast, and it was a question about inflation. And you talked about how your generation is working these full-time positions, but still finding affordability challenge. And I took a look at that situation more deeply between our last telecast and today, and I found the phenomena in existence that we need to discuss. And the phenomena that's in existence is the fact that the America that I experienced and grew up in is not the America that your generation is experiencing. I grew up in America that had a different inflation equation, right? It had a different affordability equation. And so I grew up with a, optimism that I don't think your generation enjoys. I grew up with an idea that, if I just, put a little piss and vinegar and my shoulder to the grindstone behind my effort, I could get it done. I don't think that your generation sees it that way because of the economic equation and what inflation has done to you. And I'll give you a perfect example. When I was fresh out of high school, right,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing for the first time that college wasn't for me,
Mm-hmm.
I took a student loan that they gave me at that time, which was a $2,500 student loan.
Mm-hmm.
And I jumped on a plane and I moved at 18 years old, 18 or 19. I moved from New York to Houston, Texas
Mm-hmm.
with $2,500 to my name. And I was able to acquire a job, buy a brand new car. I mean, I left Houston, Texas, richer than I arrived there. It's
Mm-hmm.
my hallucination that young people today wouldn't be even contemplating that kind of risk with that amount of money, right? They would need 10 or 20 times that amount to even consider, those kinds of risks because of the inflationary impact of the quantitative easing
Yeah.
policies that the Feds have employed. And so what I would say to your generation is that this is a opportunity for you to get out of the line of everybody that's going on the employment treadmill
Yeah.
and get into the line of entrepreneurialism, which will empower you with the ability to make inflation of no matter.
Mm-hmm.
It'll put you in a position for you and your family to be able to self-determine irrespective of what happens to the economy. And that's why I would be saying to people that are your age or below,
Mm-hmm.
they need a sense of urgency about getting involved and getting off the couch.
Now, okay, so in our private conversations, you was telling me you were watching something or a report that says that most American households, if they had like $1,000 crisis, that they wouldn't be able to recover from it. My question is, how realistic is it for somebody who working 4 jobs or 3 jobs or even one job to, well, I would say one job maybe a little bit more easier for them. But for people who work in multiple jobs, how realistic is it for them to be able to just, put all their energy into entrepreneurship while their bills are still rolling on? How realistic is it for them just to drop from what they're doing to go into entrepreneurship? Or is that the key, putting the pressure on themselves to perform at a level that makes them immediately successful? Or
There is no I in team.
yes,
It took
sir.
me a long time to learn that, and I really didn't learn that philosophy until I became a part of a community, and that community happened to be the military, the United States military, where I learned values, I learned insights, I learned skills and capabilities that weren't available to me in my silo.
Mm-hmm.
And in today's environment, we are siloed off by technology, right? And so everything that we think about from the I perspective. I would first suggest that we need to shift paradigms and start thinking about things from a community perspective. We
Mm-hmm.
start thinking about things from a team perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
if you look at things from that team perspective, then it's no longer just you taking the full bite-sized component of your time to get it done. So, as an example,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that we are promoting is the power of the family limited partnership. One of
Yeah.
the closest possible communities that you can consider that would be able to take advantage of this uber opportunity that service to this nation produces for disabled veterans now and soon will produce for regular veterans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And under that situation, if you have a family member that is a disabled veteran, you guys could come together as a community collective, right? take that asset, which is your veteran family member's benefit, and put it into earning action through a family limited partnership. And from that point of view, now you all can contribute the time slice necessary to maturing that family limited partnership that's required to create the rising tide. So the first thing that needs to happen is a shift in paradigm, right? The paradigm needs to shift away from I to we to community, right? And the paradigm needs to completely shift away from being hopeless and helpless to educating yourself to the empowered position that you already own.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, just one more question before we pivot. Do you also think, so more specifically for Black people, right? Growing up is like, if you 18, you gotta get out my house. But when you 18, you gotta be out the house. Now, do you think that also plays a function in changing the paradigm? Like, what's your thoughts on, your child, once your child is at a certain age that they have to be off on their own in the world? Do you think that also plays a part in the community effort and letting, if everybody's in one household together and they're combining all their resources, that they could probably go further because they have everything in one collective? Is that a part of the changing the paradigm and changing the thinking and how we think of community?
I have to believe that that's the case, but I've only heard about it, saw it in movies, and read about it in books, right? Because when you said you're 18 and you got to get out of my house, I'm thinking to myself, wow, I was homeless at age 14, and so 18 would have been a luxury, but the underlying paradigm shift that we have to make is away from. I lost my train of thought. Man, I had a good one on that one. Universe, bring that one back to me, because I needed to drop the science on that. So I'm not even going to fake it. I lost my train of thought on that. Remind me of that question, because I need to bring that one back.
Yes, sir. I was talking in regards to being your parents forcing you out at the age of 18, and do you think that that's a part of changing the mindset and paradigm when it comes to community building?
Good question. And the place I was starting that got me distracted was my 14-year-old homeless self. And what I was really pointing to is that there has been a systemic effort to break down the cultural foundations in the underserved communities, right? So the thing that I talked about, seeing in movies and reading about in books, were the Rockwell painting family, right?
Mm-hmm.
The snow filled window, right, with the family around the table eating. And I've only got imagination about what that means in terms of value to the participants, right?
Yeah.
Because I haven't experienced it, and most
Yeah.
of the people that I encountered that wear my social uniform, my social costume, didn't experience it either. And so I think that there is a need for us to create community supplements to fill in the gaps for the family attributes that we missed because of this systemic destruction of the families in the urban community. And where there isn't that elder young relationship that occurs organically in the family, we've got to create communities of practice that generate those things. And the community of practice that we are creating under the Elite Service Disabled Veteran Network is a place for those of you who are seeking community to find one that'll work with you and for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, the last topic I wanted to talk about is something that was, something critical in my opinion, and that's the message that you were saying that we may need to take a relook at the SBA. Now, I bring this up because Sam Lee had an article that he just posted maybe a day or two ago in regards to the ATI government solutions. And I think that was one of the big pivotal points that led to after the Ultima lawsuit, of course, but one of the other pivotal points that led to the hard look at the 8A program and the tribal concerns. And essentially, from my understanding, they look at the case and said that there may not have been justification to suspend ATI government solutions. So from your perspective, is this another reason why SBA should be relooked at, or is this a reason why SBA should be reauthorized and relooked at?
I don't know that this single event rises to the level of, suggesting that this is a, reason why the SBA should be reauthorized. I think that this is more an indication of the rush to judgment and the feeding frenzy that comes from the kind of cult of personality outcome that we got from this administration's appointment. And so what you're seeing in this particular example is the SBA's Office of Hearing and Appeals pushed back on the suspension that SBA issued and basically said to the SBA, there was no justification for the suspension that you have delivered, and there could be a potential defamation case that this company ATI may have against the government now. And so I don't know that this is an example of the SBA's missteps that contribute to the need for the reauthorization. If I'm thinking about the reasons that Walter believes we need to reauthorize the SBA, it starts with the fact that there were some programs that required attention before this administration came into office that were compounded by the changes in procurement that were recommended by this administration. And so the shock and awe executive orders of centralizing contracting under the federal government's purchasing agent all the way through eliminating fraud, waste, and abuse, all of the actions that this administration has implemented that has made our processes more porous, right? Made our processes less effective, need to be looked at. And this is a great time for us to take a wholesale look at it, as opposed to relying on the tyranny of incrementalism. And for those of you who don't know what the tyranny of incrementalism is, that's a strategy or philosophy that suggests that if you're trying to create a dramatic outcome, incremental shifts aren't going to get you there, right? You have to employ dramatic action to produce dramatic outcomes. So the tyranny of incrementalism is trying to rely on incremental actions to produce dramatic results.
Understood. And you're saying that, so these are from the dismantling DEI Ultima lawsuit to the centralization of contracts. You're saying those were incremental and not one wholesale. And I ask this because from when I look at it, it seems like it was like a boom, 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 boom. And it was all at one, even though it wasn't like in one day, but it just seemed like it was all just a forced push at one in one period of time.
So what we're saying are two different things.
Yeah.
What you're saying, I am co-signing, and that is that the actions that came out of this administration were a result of a plan,
Okay.
right? They were a result of a agenda. So the executive orders that consolidated contracting, the executive orders that focused on empowering Elon Musk as an unpaid right arbiter in every agency. Those are I get concerned when I start thinking about this, because it's just unfair that we are being impacted on by this level of lunacy and nobody's saying anything about it. I just can't, right? We have a threat to our way of life that is in need of our attention. And we have an opportunity to deliver our attention to this matter in an organized utilization of our constitutional rights. My concern and your concern should be, if we don't use it now, we may not have an opportunity to react to it later.
Sir. Yes, sir. And I'm going to reinforce the message where the whole purpose and what we're looking to educate the audience on, and what we're looking to actively demonstrate by showing the power we have as the people, to first reach out to your congressman, just so you could see the actual real-time example of the power you have. Reach out to your congressman and to your representative and ask them to co-sponsor the Contract Our Veterans Act and the Veteran Member Business Loan Act. And that's the first step in helping you understand that you do have the power to make a change. And guys, on that note, I am Ratwan Hill, and that is the Mr. Walter Cotton III. Until next time, guys.